and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, for chairman's remarks, thank you all for being here. I've got some good stuff on the agenda. Just keep the discussion going, keeping it open. I know it's been 2 months now since we've met. I hope everybody had a nice Christmas and a Happy New Year. Glad to see everybody again. Chair will entertain a motion for the approval of the November minutes. I know those were distributed by email, and I have a hard copy if anybody's interested.
I move we approve the minutes as they were presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Just letting Don catch up for a second because he's doing double duty.
Ms. DeVere,
Yes.
Ms. Wells,
Yes.
Dr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Grice.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Should he's secretary, right?
Yep.
Should he be doing that?
We
Typically
worked it out so that I could participate in meetings instead of sitting here taking notes the
so
whole time.
he's gonna be our.
So he sort of takes them, I review them to
I'm
make
the
sure,
temporary
because I still
clerk.
take
Alright.
notes. We sort of team up on it. That's what's going
Okay.
on.
All right.
Mr. Robertson's like that Swiss Army knife in your pocket.
Right.
Doing a lot of things. Great. We had several follow-ups from the November meeting. Last time we met November 4th to include a model cash handling procedure, and then we'll move on to sample RFP and nonprofit organizations, 501c3.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I guess that would be, who can report on model cash handling? I know between Mr. Keaton and Ms. Wells, we were gonna, I know I
So-
got a draft of something from Mr. Jones over the last month.
Yeah, and it's the same one that is in our book. So not the ACFR, but the audit committee binder. Cash handling policy. Did I give you one of these when we did? Okay.
This is
I
not
can- I
a
can
model
find it
policy,
in
this
my
is our
notes.
actual cash handling
The ones
policy.
that, I can find it, what he passed out.
Oh, okay.
So somebody else can look
Boy,
at it.
I'm getting old. I grabbed my financial investment book instead
Uh-oh.
of my...
No,
You don't have
Look at
your iPad with your email either, right?
I've been through all the stuff that I have.
I had it
I
tabbed.
found it.
Don, is there somewhere you can make a couple of copies?
I've got a copy at home, I'll just listen.
I'm good.
You don't need one for right now, and he doesn't need one.
I don't need one.
You good?
I'll just listen to the broad outline of the process.
Okay. Yes, except for, can you make a copy of,
I have mine.
not that one,
Not that one.
this, I thought yes, this. Can you make-
That was just one.
I
I have to
know.
let y'all share this one. This
No,
is,
that's, yeah.
so this is this was in the book.
Yeah, we
This
got
has
it.
got the actual.
Thank you.
Okay, so our concerns regarding cash handling procedures. Stephanie, you want to refresh our memory?
So we have a cash handling policy now. I don't recall, I believe that the concern that we had was that the cash handling policy was more of an internal procedure rather than an adopted policy by the board.
Yeah, I think
And
that's sort of what
so-
we talked about a little way back when.
Right. And so I think that the committee wanted model policy or to use this policy to review and consider having the Board of Supervisors adopt it as a formal policy. I emailed out policies after this particular meeting that we discussed it, and I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to review that policy for consideration of providing to the Board of Supervisors for adoption.
Well, the major operation that we were addressing was the fair, was it not?
Originally, with the original cash handling policy, correct. Mhm.
And we now have had a year's experience or several years' experience with this policy. Is there anything that's come to light in the policy that has bubbled up in any of the management of funding for the fair?
Not during the years that I was observing and supervising the function. I thought it went really well. The changes that we made, I don't know if, and we haven't had a discussion with Mr. Frickanese, the Parks and Rec director. He's managing and overseeing that now, and he has a staff person that he hires for seasonally to do the supervision of that process. There was a little bit of a hiccup the first year that we had a seasonal person, just because they didn't quite have the ability to manage it, and so he's replaced that person, and they're pretty happy with the person that they had this last year, so thank you. I think it's a fair policy.
It is.
Yes, that we can use. I would be comfortable with providing it as written to the Board of Supervisors for review.
So the policy starts out and says the treasurer is
The treasurer is
required by statute to do all this.
she's required to do the things in that paragraph. And so she would be responsible for adopting this in her department if she wanted to also do this. Now, if she's not gonna oversee the function of the fair, which she or he hasn't in the past, then it would be the county who would then perform these duties in her absence.
Is that what you want to do?
I feel like we need to ask, right? I mean, we need to have the conversation.
I think it should be, we should ask for a response from the treasurer as to her input.
She doesn't follow this policy internally in her office. And one thing to know maybe is that there's different sections of the county that are collecting cash and then turning it over to her without her oversight. So we still need to make sure that whatever we're doing in those different departments and sections is sufficient to control and safeguard that cash until it gets to her. So this statement is accurate, but until it gets to her, we still have a responsibility to make sure it's safeguarded. And this actually was written in conjunction with the prior treasurer, so she felt comfortable with how it was written for the fair and other departments. But it's not necessarily going to be something that her department is going to follow, because she can make up whatever policy for her department individually. This would be, until it gets to her department, this is our plan.
And once it's in her department, who posts it to where?
She posts it to where we tell her to post it. So
Okay,
we give her a
so it's
revenue
directed.
account.
So the only question then is a timing question, if she's doing it correctly. Her department is doing correctly. And perhaps one of the things you might want to add is some type of a timing criteria.
So the safeguarding of the cash is a deposit requirement, which this has. A posting to the financials requirement is an internal financial control that is separate from a cash control. And we do, typically, the generally accepted accounting principles is, what is it? Basically no longer than 30 days to reconcile the month before, or something like that. For accurate timely financial reporting. So basically, she has 30 days to post everything from the month before. Because that's when your bank reconciliation should be completed. We don't have, which is, I guess, another discussion about the issues with the bank reconciliation, but that's not pertinent to this.
What about the timeliness of the deposit at the bank?
So
For her.
this does talk about timeliness of deposits, but whether or not she's doing that is, I couldn't say.
And where's the money safeguarded in the meantime?
She has a vault. A couple people have keys to it.
So from my recollection, the last time we looked at this, I was questioning where the money every day would be put. So when you have a fair or more than a one-day event, does the money still go to the treasurer's vault? 'Cause it does.
Daily. It does talk about smaller collections and deposit of cash promptly at the treasurer's office if over $200 within 24 hours, if less within 48 hours. Storing cash receipts anywhere overnight should be avoided. And of course, any department that did keep cash overnight would need a safe.
And in addition to that, we have, if I recall, last time I went to the fair, most of the transactions were being handled by a credit card. So the cash, the amount of cash that is actually there is much smaller than it has been historically.
It's continuing to get less and less, but there's still a fair amount of cash that they keep overnight there. And so there's a safe there during the day, and then there's a police escort that brings it to the treasurer's vault in the evenings. And then any petty cash is taken out and then taken back down to the fairgrounds.
Is the petty cash taken out in the morning of the fair? So the petty cash doesn't reside at the, and I'm assuming you're talking about the cash for making it change and so on and so forth. There's a standard amount.
It's just not safeguarded enough to leave it at the fairgrounds overnight, any amount of cash, so we don't do that.
Steph, I think this year, actually, we used the utility safe.
Yeah, we had to use the utility safe because the treasurer didn't want to commingle fair cash with her other county funds. So we used the utility safe. We purchased a safe for utilities when it was split out of the treasurer's office because she didn't want to keep their cash either. So we are actually using that safe to safeguard the fair cash.
It's in the treasurer's area, but it's just a separate safe.
So that was my question. The two things that I recall having concerns about, one is the policy states that the money will be kept in the treasurer's vault, which we didn't do.
For the fair. It's a safe, but it's not her vault, no.
Because I recall that we had to make that concession, so.
That was kind of a last minute
Right.
change.
It's still a considerable size safe. It's not just a little stand safe. It's a large safe that can.
Yeah, but if that's what we're going to continue to do, I think the policy should reflect that, right? I mean, I would think any body that's going to come in and audit us would say, how are you doing according to what you say you're going to do and according to your procedure.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, are you looking at that part of it? Because somewhere it says that if it can't be turned in that evening to the treasurer's vault, it must be still kept in the safe.
Who has access
Kept
to
in a
the
safe and secure place if safe isn't available until deposited. Yeah. But there is a line in here that speaks directly to the treasurer's vault.
All cash must be protected immediately by using a drawer, safe, or other secure place until deposited. A secure area for processing and safeguarding funds received is to be provided and restricted to authorized personnel.
So it's a separate vault within the treasurer's office?
It's in that,
A
in the
safe
cash
that's in that
area.
suite.
Yeah, in the suite, yeah. As you were asking how many people have the code to that, so
Who has access to
we,
that?
we made a concession for during the fair week that the cash is turned over each evening from the utilities department, because it's only a few $100s, to the treasurer during fair week. And that enables only 2 people with the Parks and Rec department to have access to the safe during that time, so that there's not other people that could be also have access to that, to the fair receipt.
Change the code during that week so that the code is different.
Mm-hmm, that's good.
The second thing that I recall looking at with regard especially to the fair policy had to do with training and education, you know, to the person that's handling cash, so.
That's in here too. There is.
Yeah, it says that. I just wanted to see if we could just spot check or audit the records for that. Make sure that people are getting the training on the cash handling procedure and that we have those, you know, there's a signature sheet in the procedure. I want to make sure that we can find those sheets and make sure that we're continuing to educate like we say we are.
I go back also, and it's not in there specifically, go back to the timing issue of it being posted, accounted for. And is there a mechanism for our financial division to know that the money has been transferred to the treasurer and the amount and the date, and then at the end of 30 days or the end of 60, whenever the review process is, they know it and can take some action on it?
In the past, no. Unfortunately, we can't take any action on it, so, I mean, that wouldn't, we can know it, just like we know it now. There's lots of things that haven't been recorded so far this fiscal year, and other than me knowing it, there's nothing I can do about it.
But you're aware of it.
I'm aware of it in this instance, but the only reason I'm aware of it is because she's turned over some of the cash reconciliation duties to my office. Not cash reconciliation, bank reconciliation duties to my office. Typically, I would not know that they had outstanding items that hadn't been deposited or hadn't been recorded.
Is that a shortcoming in the system?
No, it's the nature of the treasurer in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They get audited annually, and they have full control over cash, recording, all of that. We
Are you
have
talking
policies.
about they're audited annually separately from our audit? Are they
No.
not? They're included in our audit.
They're included in our audit. The only thing they get audited separately on is the state revenues for income tax. Is there anything else they collect for state? There's a few things they collect through the court system that gets directly turned over to the state, but mostly it's the state income tax revenues that they are audited on by the state.
Okay, so let's,
Ms. Wells, question. As you know, cash handling is, cash in general is becoming more and more antiquated in our civilization. Are there municipalities moving away from cash handling in lieu of electronic point-of-sale debit cards, credit cards, specifically to reduce the burden of handling cash? Are other municipalities tending in that direction?
Definitely, and we are too, to a certain extent, as much as possible, just like trying to get the credit cards that you can accept for at the fairgrounds. trying to be as cashless as possible out there. It'd be nice to be completely cashless, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. As far as the different departments, we have Tyler cashiering, we have online payments. I tried to get the not SBCA, the animal shelter, thank you, to be completely cashless and send all their customers over here, but apparently that's an issue with people not wanting to adopt dogs, so they're still accepting cash over there. Most of our other departments send customers, citizens, straight to the treasurer's office for cash, and it's mostly credit card transactions that are handled in the other departments. But yes, it's across the board. Everybody's doing as much as possible to go away from cash.
I think there are certain days at the fair that would be very, very difficult to go totally cashless. because-
Dollar Day, maybe?
Dollar Day.
They pay in quarters.
Yeah, I bet you they do. And the kids come in, the day the kids come in?
I don't think we take cash for the kids. Don't we get the money directly from the kid through the schools for
I
that?
think the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think we take.
Unless
money
people bring them separately.
Like,
Yeah.
Then-
the
And then you
homeschools,
probably,
yeah.
and probably at the same time, you got seniors.
Mhm.
And I would imagine there's some seniors that
The seniors pay in cash.
they pay in cash.
They pay in cash.
Yeah. So there's circumstances where you still have to have this policy.
Well, and it covers cash and checks too. I mean, it covers any form of cashes, credit card, checks, actual cash. So there's a purpose for this, even if we were to be cashless. Because you want a lot of these timeliness issues and safeguarding and things of that nature, even if you're just running people's credit card. Because that can still happen. You know, you still want people, anyway. You were getting something?
This is a question for the purpose of understanding,
Okay.
not challenging.
Oh, okay, good.
So the procedure says the treasurer's office must authorize all cash collection points. So back to your point, any office, any party of the county, anywhere that collects cash has to be authorized by the treasurer's office. Is that happening?
Well, it's grandfathered in. There's not been
So it
any new-
happened,
Yes.
if it hasn't been reviewed or any kind of periodicity or anything like that. The second part of my seek to understand question is, it says a computerized accounting system or proper transmittal must be recorded when the cash is collected. So anybody collecting cash should be entering data into the computerized accounting system so it's visible at that point in time. How does that work or not work?
And we have several different ways of making that happen. Typically, things like the fairgrounds, we now have a POS system, a cashiering type system, point of sale. So that's how it's done at the fair. At the different departments, say planning and zoning, we have OpenGov. So anytime anybody's applying for a permit, all of that is entered into the system right then. At the treasurer's office, we have the cashiering system through Munis. So that's how we are documenting.
So your
getting things.
feedback is, works well and part of the system?
There's times when we have to do paper receipts at different
There's always
departments.
something, right? Yeah.
Right. Typically, that would be either animal control, which even they have an electronic system now, and Parks and Rec. Sometimes we'll have to do paper receipts. Anytime we get cash at the fair from what is that called, Midway, we provide them a receipt. If we get cash from somebody for selling ice, because we have like different people do different things, we provide them a paper receipt. So does the system currently work well? I mean, it's as good as,
So maybe an action might be to go back to all the cash collection points at some point in time and validate they are doing what it says here, which I think this is very thorough, very clear. Even I can understand it, so it's
and so
pretty
that's
clear.
what the auditor is responsible for making sure that the policies that we have in place are followed. So once we put a policy, a formal policy in place, it will be up to them to do that.
Okay, that's,
But they also know of these places already. So even if there's not a formal policy, they go and review. They've gone to
Okay.
animal shelter, they've gone to Parks and Rec, they've gone.
sort of the
to-
high-risk points fairly well, right? As we talked
Yeah.
about.
They've been the animal control.
Not this audit, but the last one, something that was mentioned was the lack of a receipt book. So that's one of the things that we've validated, it's been corrected.
Well, I appreciate the discussion and looking over the policy and asking my questions. I think it's pretty thorough. It seems like a good idea that it be formalized.
I think so too. I'm just thinking about your initial comment where the first line says the treasurer will, you know. And for us to knowingly, as a board, go into a policy that we're not really sure the treasurer is, you know, I get the whole thing of up until that point, we should still follow our own policy. This is a good thing to do. It's good hygiene, if you will. But it's kind of like approving something that you know is going to have to immediately come for some kind of waiver.
Well, if I may make a suggestion, then I would recommend that we take, and if we are in agreement that this is the policy we want to submit to the board, or recommend to the board, that you send it to the treasurer's office for comment, and if they're with a deadline, and asking for comments or revisions by such and such a date, or it will become the policy.
I believe I have shared it with her, but I did not give a deadline, so I can add
Or
that.
solicit comments.
Right.
Okay, I think a formal procedure of asking for comment and a sign-off by a specific date is powerful.
Can that come from the audit committee?
I was gonna recommend that it come from the chair directly to her. I can share it electronically, the one that's the final formal, because this actually has a couple different parts to it. And so the other one's a little bit more readable electronically. So I can share that with Randy and Bobby, I believe I'm supposed to send stuff to, in the chair. And then he can take the other steps.
Great discussion. Anything else on cash handling? All right, next thing on the agenda, a sample
Madam
RF.
Chair,
Sorry?
And when, approximately, when will that be done? So that we can have an idea when we're gonna be presenting it to the board?
Oh, me sending it
No.
out by email?
Well,
Oh.
I think your recommendation was it came from the chair of this,
Yeah,
of the audit committee.
gonna make an assumption, you know what happens when you assume things, but I'll make an assumption that Chairman McCarty will be toot sweet, he'll be all over it.
I mean, within the next day or two, and then, is there a recommendation for when we want to ask for it back?
I think we're in agreement that this is the policy we want to be following. We should have an opportunity to make any revisions to it when it comes back, if there are things that are being challenged from the treasurer's office, so they can be submitted to the board perhaps in February.
So should that come back to the audit committee in February for our February meeting, and then we can
With her
discuss it
comments.
again, and then decide to make a formal recommendation if that's appropriate?
Yes.
Good
So
idea.
give her till January 31, and then that'll give us time.
Well, that gives us just the weekend.
Oh, is it that early?
Yeah.
You
Our
have it,
meeting's on the 3rd,
Okay.
and she, I'd say the 24th. Maybe give us a week to get it on the agenda and review it. So,
Will we be meeting again before then?
no, we'll get the comments, distribute them electronically, and then we'll discuss it on our meeting February 3rd.
Okay.
For hopefully, you know, presenting to the board for the 20th at our
That would be great.
regular meeting.
Yep.
Everybody agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, just for notes' sake, looks like we're going to send the most recent version of the cash handling policy to Chairman McCarty. He's going to get it to the treasurer ASAP, and then we're gonna give her until the 24th of January to comment and review. So that we then, staff has a week to look that over before our meeting on the 3rd. Okay, great.
And the
All right.
comments come back to the chairman, I presume, and he'll present them at the meeting, or?
Yes, yeah. Comments back to the chair. See what happens when you miss a meeting, you get stuff to do.
That should be a good lesson, right?
I know. Okay.
Everybody
sample-
needs to show up.
Sample RFP.
You can pass this one down if you want.
Can I do it now? Is
You
it
can pass it-
legitimately?
Yes, you can legitimately. pass
All right,
it.
thank you. Do I keep one, or I have to pass them?
You should keep one.
I keep one, then pass the rest.
I'll walk around. Oh, y'all probably want one.
Thank you.
My clerk didn't get up and get the papers for me. Madam Clerk? It's always a madam, sorry, Don. Please don't be offended.
I'm going to HR soon.
I know, I'm sorry. My apologies. So I haven't looked at this since February 15th of 2021, or thereabouts. So there may or may not be typos in this, but it is a sample RFP because this is what we sent out before. And typically, I don't recreate the wheel. I take somebody else's wheel and then amend it for our purposes. So if there's anything we want to change in here, we can certainly do that. So what is the desire of the committee, to hit the high points or just let y'all take it back and see if you can?
I mean, obviously, there's numbers in here that have changed, right? Numbers of
certainly.
FTEs, dollar amounts, figures, things like that. Is it our intent to review things on a rotating cycle every 3 years, 2 years?
So this one was done with a 1-year contract and 3 renewals, so it's time for us to get this out again. So ironically, it's timely that you're wanting to review this because it needs to go out in February, be returned in March, and contract done before April 1st of 25. Our contracts have to be, with our auditor, have to be completed by then. So if we want to send it back out, we can do a year-to-year with the auditor and just keep them another year if we wanted to, or we can do an actual RFP and go through the process again.
Do we perform an evaluation on the auditor after each audit?
I evaluate him on every year, I can assure you. We don't do anything formal, no.
Mr. Coburn still the contract officer?
No. I guess I could go through, so the contents of the RFP, we can talk about, I can kind of talk about all of them just by going through this page 3. So obviously the purpose would be for the audit, and it talks about that briefly. The contract period is going to be for a year, and then we can choose if we want 3 renewals or not. The background talks.
Can I stop for just 1 second?
Sure.
Interrupt? And that is, what is our current contract? Are we at the, have we
Yes,
extended it 3 times?
Yes. We're at the end. We need either a new RFP or just go to a year-to-year basis where we just use whoever we want to use.
So
There is something going on.
as we talked about this a little bit last time, we discussed that there was a auditor learning curve that happens in their ability to work with you in doing a successful, efficient kind of audit. And so changing every year would be not a great idea, because you go through that every year. I mean,
It's very difficult, yes.
and is 3 enough to the point where they get real comfortable and you maybe want to change for a different look? I mean, what's your view of that?
If I'm not mistaken, they change partners every 5 years on an audit. So we could conceivably do 2 more years and not, well, 1 more year technically, because we already did the first year. So 1 more year without feeling like we really need a change just for, I don't know, fairness or whatever other term you want to use for that, so.
So they get different eyes on their end, even though it's
They
in the
typically
scope of
do.
the same contract every,
But they could still use the same internal staff, which makes it.
yeah, which makes sense to do the number
Right.
counting, those kind of things. yeah.
It's helpful for them, but then they have their higher ups, different higher ups that review the work done by the lower level staff.
So having a set of option years then is a relatively positive thing.
I'm sorry, say that.
Having a set of option years to the base year.
Option years, yes.
Yeah, is a relatively positive thing.
Yes, I would not want to go to a year to year,
Yeah.
every year change somebody. That's very difficult, time consuming.
So why 3, why not 5?
State contract, state statutes say you get 1 plus 3 renewals.
So that's the max you can do.
Well, unless you go to a year to year,
Yeah,
and you
right,
don't.
okay.
Mhm.
So,
One
That makes
plus
that pretty
three,
simple.
Or 1 plus,
1 plus 3.
I thought it was 5.
4 years total.
It's 1 plus 3.
4-year total.
It depends on what it is, but it's under state procurement law. Now, there might be 1 plus 4 for other things. I don't think that's changed. I think it's 1 plus 3. Okay. So,
Thank you.
background is usually pretty brief about the county, and then the statement of needs is typically just, hey, we need an audit done. The scope of services changes for different localities depending on what you want the auditor to review, and so we have internal controls, compliance auditing, major federal programs, so our federal funds. Other, let's see, what did we have for other? Talked about GAP, new GASB pronouncements, that's standard. School,
Do you populate this largely, or does the state tell us what minimum has to do, then you add to it based on your opinion?
the state doesn't have any parameters.
So you
for-
get to create these topics generally?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any missing that you'd like to see?
It pretty much covers it. I don't know, if there's an other, and that we've already given him other, so to speak. Cause I know that they've done our, landfill report a couple of times. Our certification, but it's basically putting numbers into a piece of paper.
So for the other, do you provide that inside each audit period in terms of what others might be? So that's up to your judgment of what they should look at based
Yeah,
on
so
whatever amount?
yeah, and we actually can change this, cause like this has 2 specific things when it talks about the new GASB pronouncements and then education to the staff. Say I wanted more education to our staff, I would increase it, which I will say, to, Ms. Roundtree, one of the things that I'm not happy with really with the current auditor is the amount of training that they give us. It's really not as robust as the auditor that we had previously. But it's still available to us. They do give us some, so,
6 hours to meet the policy.
to meet the policy, yeah.
Can the schools be included?
I don't know that we've had any since you've been here. I don't think
Since May?
I don't think so.
It's only been since May.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember. So school activity funds, that's not something we have to have, but we've put that in our RFP so that we can get one auditor to do everything that touches the county. Let's see, comparative report transmittal, it's a requirement from the Virginia APA, the Auditor of Public Accounts. We have to prepare and provide that to them. There's a discussion of the audit schedule.
Which we
meeting-
never meet,
The APA?
the audit schedule. Last year, we got our letter January 2nd, this year got it December 2nd. And it says we should get it by November 13th each year.
So the reason why that's changed is there was actually, since this original contract was, or RFP was put out, there was a change by the state to be December 15th.
Oh.
And so this will actually change in the new RFP to December 15th.
Perfect, thank you.
Meetings, if we want to add any required meetings, so we could add the audit committee to this. Which the auditor did, when we get to that part, did say that he could be available by phone call if we had any questions for him. So the reports part, it won't say CAFR anymore, it'll say ACFR, because that's been changed. Independent audit reports and some of these other things are standard reports that are provided by the auditor. Assistance to be provided by the auditor, let's see.
Yeah, that didn't make sense because it doesn't have anything after that.
I'm sorry.
It says assistance to be provided, but it just gives counties full responsibility.
I'm wondering if it should be, to the, I'm sorry, assistance provided to the auditor.
To be provided.
Yes, I said it incorrectly. I was misled you. So assistance to be provided to the auditor, so there's county responsibilities and then school board responsibilities. State corporate commission identification number, I don't know why that's there, it has something to do with, I think that was just, it's for the auditor, obviously.
Had to be registered with the state somehow.
The rest of that is procurement required type stuff, which actually that first one probably was not necessary for this type of RFP. If we had added an addenda for any reason, they would have to authorize that. So everything else is standard verbiage, other than if you look at evaluation criteria on page 13. This is what we evaluate the respondents on. Qualifications and experience, similar work. The staff to be assigned to our project for their qualifications and experience. References from other clients with similar size localities. Audit understanding, approach, and work plan, so they will include information in their packet and respond to that to make sure, to prove that they have sufficient understanding. Their ability to complete the audit by required deadlines, so if we could ask them if they've had consistent failure to meet the required dates by statute, and then commitment to provide continuity of audit staff.
So looking back over the last 4 years of performance, in your opinion, is there any areas of the audit where you would like to see some improvement, some change, some shift that you would include in this criteria?
I would consider adding something in the evaluation criteria about their training to their clients, because of, not really liking as much as what we've received as much as other auditors that we've worked with. And that's pretty much it as far as what's in there for how we will evaluate the auditor and the responses of people who submit to us. The rest is just procurement lingo.
The last time you did this, how many proposals did you receive?
I think it was 5, and we interviewed 3. We interviewed 3 or 4, and there was a committee of us, me, Mr. Keaton, the treasurer, my comptroller, and that may have been it. And then we kind of rated everybody who we thought provided the best for this evaluation criteria, and came to a consensus and used Robinson Farmer Cox.
And this is a best value selection, not a lowest price technically acceptable evaluation?
So what we start with is who we think can best perform.
Okay.
And then we go to price.
Okay.
If we thought that somebody could provide something better than another respondent, we would start with that top selection. If they wanted $500,000, we would move on to the next person, because we're not going to pay something like that, which is actually a reasonable fee for some places, like maybe Virginia Beach. I don't know.
Do you take these evaluation criteria and put them in a rubric of sorts?
We just put them in an Excel spreadsheet and then kind of rate people based on this.
So everybody has the same rating? criteria? You
It's
score them 1 to 5?
Like, best is 1 and worst is 5, and it's not any kind of formal. If one meets or exceed, well, I guess one would be exceeds, obviously, but it's not quite that formal, no.
What do we typically pay for an audit?
74.5, I think, right now.
How much?
74.5. If we get over 80,000, we're gonna be required to do our RFP because that's the, state statutes for formal bidding. But we do this just because we still want a good value, you know. Even though we're under the threshold, which is why I'm saying we could go to an annual contract if we wanted to, because currently we don't exceed the formal threshold.
Is there a lot of differentiation between the firms in this domain, or is it, yeah, I don't know a lot about accounting, except it seems like it's pretty straightforward. Is there much differentiation between people that would propose?
Size sometimes is
Size.
different, because Robert Robinson, Farmer Cox is a little bit smaller than somebody like Cherry Becker. They're huge. So typically it's size, and with that, you might get a partner with 25 years versus 18.
Okay.
So there can be some of that, but that's why you want to know who's your principal, you know, who's going to be the partner that's reviewing your audit. So that all comes under their qualifications and experience of the staff to be assigned. The other thing is you want to make sure, in our case, we would want to make sure we got somebody with municipality experience, especially small local governments. We don't want somebody who, maybe the town of Windsor, but not somebody our size. Or vice versa, only Virginia Beach, but nobody our size.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
A lot of times, you know, somebody like the town of Windsor that only did that size, they might expect too much from us, and vice versa. Somebody like Virginia Beach might not do enough for what they need to do.
So Stephanie, to get done what you need to get done and stay on your timeline, because just as a reminder, Ms. Wells said it's time to put this together again in February so that an RFP could be returned in March and let a contract by April 1st. It's not very much time.
Well, and I'm sorry, finish you can finish.
I was just gonna ask, is this a decision that's up to you? Or do you have to take it to the board of supervisors? I mean, if you are gonna just go to year, or if you're gonna take time now and edit the RFP, is that something you decide, or?
Typically. And we don't need to give a long amount of time to respondents because they typically have pre-written determination of what they're going to provide in these packets. So, 20 days, and then it would take us maybe 2 weeks to make a decision. Granted, if we wanted to do something where we were more coordinated with the committee, this committee, we would need to get on it right at, like, let's say we wanted to bring this back for this next meeting and say, okay, this is what changes everybody wants. We would need to get it put out right then if y'all wanted to be on the committee, et cetera.
Okay. It's a pleasure of the committee.
Other than the one comment about the evaluation, including something about training, and I think that's a single line entry.
Is there a preference by the committee to want somebody from the school was the other person that was on the committee. It was Rachel at the time. Sorry. Other than our typical committee, does the board want to change who is on our committee? Assign somebody from the audit committee on that committee.
Anybody want to volunteer? Okay.
Sure.
We have
Okay.
a volunteer.
All right, we'll add you to the committee and go from there.
Okay.
Mr. Stanton.
Mike,
Oh,
I have enough to do.
Good man.
So we'll begin.
So we also want, your suggestion that they meet with the committee at some point in time, somehow, some way, audibly or
Sit
whatever,
up and look
Who's
down
that?
and see who I am.
the auditor.
Oh, so if we're gonna go to the
Or do you
audit.
want to count that through his representation on the,
I think she means for this audit
yeah,
letter, for the report, he said he could be available if we wanted to call him tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Is that
see.
what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And did you want to review this for any kind of input from the
Sure.
school side?
Yeah, I already read through, but yes, I'll give you I don't think there's any changes, but.
So we can, you're good with us moving forward then, the committee's good?
Yeah, I mean, other than the things we've said, I don't think you need to bring it back to February 3rd. We just
Okay.
move ahead, especially given your timeline.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to, from the schools to the committee about the audit, the RFP or anything? Did you need to? I was just giving you opportunity to make comment if you wanted to.
I'll look at it and give you a comment by the end of the week.
Okay.
Nice, thank you. Okay, I think next topic has to do with nonprofit organizations, 501c3. It's a topic we had brought up. Anybody have any materials or just a discussion?
No, I'm gonna turn that over to Mr. Keaton and our attorney, Mr. Jones, because I don't have the formal training to set up a 501c3.
The county can't create a 501c3.
Yeah, so what, Mr. Keaton and I talked about this since the last, we had 2 months, but since the last audit committee meeting. I think the perspective here had to do with the fact that the animal shelter, right, that we have, and animal control is, owned and operated, if you will, by the sheriff's department, right? So it's a department under the county. As I've spoken to some of the people over there and just what I know, shelters are able to apply for grant money and to be awarded money from different groups. And it's a lot easier, obviously, to get that money if you have a nonprofit status and to write those grants, et cetera. So what Mr. Keaton and I talked about and what I asked was, I'm happy to be an executive sponsor, if you will, for the good folks that will be an executive committee for a new nonprofit that'll be started. And what I would ask is that the county / Stephanie or Attorney Jones or whatnot, just kind of double check the paperwork and check behind us. So what we're talking about is a new group.
We can't.
You can't even look at it.
We can't give advice to a non-county entity.
Yeah.
We can't be giving private legal advice. They would have to have their own attorney. I mean, I can't. That would be the same as if somebody that's forming a football club that has nothing to do with the county wanted to come in and ask me to look at their documents.
Well, that gives me a good idea of types of professionals that need to be on the executive board for this new nonprofit that's starting.
Starting a 501c3 is not difficult.
Right.
The issue would be, the difficulty is going to be, how do you turn, I'm sure the sheriff would love to get rid of the animal shelter. I mean, there's no question about that, but that is a duty that he does that is not really a public safety issue from the sheriff's department, but he is clearly the person that has the most knowledge about having people go out and do what animal control does. So you would still have animal control officers under the sheriff's department. They would be the ones doing, if somebody is maltreating an animal, they would be the ones that would seize animals or charge somebody with criminal offenses. We would then have to come out and have a dollar lease with a nonprofit organization to run the shelter. And we would have to turn over the operation of the animal control shelter to another entity other than the county in order to make that work. I know that many localities, shelters are run by something other than the county, the SPCA or whatever. It's same with county fairs. I'll bet you 50% of county fairs are run by nonprofit organizations that just get funding, donations from the county, just like we give donations to Christian Outreach, the free clinic in Suffolk. The county makes those donations, and it would be a donation to an animal shelter, a donation to a fair committee. But that would be what would be required. We'd have to reach, a group would come in, have a plan of how they would operate the shelter. And we would just, if we seized animals, we had the big seizure 6 months ago where we seized horses and 40 dogs, and then turned that over to the 501c3 and said, we've got animals for you, and then let them be in charge of shelter and adoption.
So I don't know that this small but mighty, well-intended group of citizens wants to start running an animal shelter any more than the sheriff likes running it. So I don't really know how that works. I think I was looking for direction as far as how can a nonprofit be formed to allow, money to be donated that's tax-free.
Give Me Shelter, when they were in operation there in the town, was a fundraiser for animals, and then they would routinely make donations to the shelter. But they were out looking for grants.
What was the name of that? I'm sorry.
It was Give Me Shelter. It
Oh.
was on the corner of
Grace and
Main Street, that the old gas station. It was a thrift store.
Did that close?
The problem was people make donations to the shelter, they're just making donations to the county, because there is no animal shelter as an organization. I know when I first came, I met with some volunteers from the shelter, and they came to meet with me, and I said, well, who are you? Are you the SPCA? They were like, no, we're just volunteers. I was like, well, how do I know I'm not going to be talking to another group of volunteers tomorrow that may have different ideas for running the shelter? So they weren't organized. It wasn't an organized group. It was just, Tom, Dick, and Harry come today, and Sally, June, and someone else comes tomorrow, and it's just different people. So that was the difficulty that.
We do earmark donations though, just
Well,
to
we
clarify.
do
I just
that,
want to
but I'm
clarify
saying-
that part.
But people would come in and think they were making a donation to an organization, and there is no such organization.
Well, it has different tax implications.
They can make donations to the county are still taxes.
Yeah, so the tax implications are the same. It's whether the only benefit of the 501c3 is that there are some grants that will only give to 501c3. But the donation's the same.
And also, I think there's a difficulty with the 501(c)(3) type of organization, is if currently the funding for that operation comes totally from, other than these contributions, which is certainly not the major part of the
Right.
budget.
Right.
I mean, we got police officers or deputies working over there.
Right.
And I mean, it's got staffing and all the rest of
Right.
it. Suddenly you have it's now a contribution. And there's a shortfall of funding coming into the county. What do you cut?
Yeah, that is one of the issues that we have even with the fair, is being able to fund them without being overburdened on the taxpayer for what they're trying to accomplish. Sometimes we can do things more efficiently as a department with the county versus handing something over to a committee. Not that that's what your intention is. So is it that you want to create not a committee, but a 501c3 only for the purpose of applying for grants that can be provided to the,
Yeah, not to run a
yeah.
shelter.
And it should be, I mean, that part should be pretty easy. Who's gonna, sorry, were you-
No, sorry.
who is gonna be applying for the grants? Who's gonna do that part of it?
People that are on the executive
Right.
committee for the organization,
Have they already identified something that they want
in the
to do?
process of that, yeah.
So, Ms. Rountree, are you familiar with the organization Isle of Wight County Humane Society?
Uh-huh.
Okay. They run a series of foster homes, and is there a way to maybe lash onto something there with them?
Yeah.
They've done a good job of trying to stay out of the way of the animal shelter.
So the last time I was with both of those entities together, Humane Society representative said, a lot of these grants and a lot of monies that are available to physical plants, so available to shelters only.
Okay,
And the Humane Society, the address goes to someone's house.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they run foster homes.
Right. So it's decentralized, if
Yeah.
you will.
Would you have the same issue legally, being a 501c3 that didn't own the shelter? Yeah.
Because at least it to them.
Yeah, I think you could make it for the sole benefit of the shelter, right?
Create the
I mean, if
501c3.
that was the purpose.
I don't know.
It could be, operate similar to what you're doing with COP.
So then, that's why I'm
We
wondering
own the
why.
building and we lease it to them.
Oh, to do well, and then there goes the operation thing. I mean, then that becomes, is it a decent amount of money? I mean, is this something that's really valuable enough for us and you guys to really put your time and effort into? The 501c3 grant versus all the other funds we already have?
I guess that's another research point.
Yeah. I mean, because if it's valuable enough, sure. But if you're talking 5,000 a year, that's a lot of effort and time.
Just out of curiosity, what is the total budget for that?
Oh, goodness. Let's visit the. So, I know I brought my glasses for a reason.
You have to tell us what page you're on.
I will as soon as I get to the right place here. So I'm back in 155-ish. And public safety. Animal control, other protection on page 154. The original budget was 745 for 24, 745,000.
But that, it's not broken out by the shelter versus the operations, it's just all operations, so.
Yeah, so it has, I believe, 4 staff that is included in that, and then all of the other supplies.
The
And
staff is included in that 7?
there's four staff members.
At the shelter or out in the field as well? I think it's
Well, so there's the
officers.
officers, and
Yeah.
I think there's only 1 or 2, and then a couple of part-time people, like, at the shelter only.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then the officers come in and also do cleaning duties as well, I think, so.
You think it's more than 4? Actually, it might be in here. No, that's in the budget.
Yes.
I think they maybe like
Full-time?
4 officers.
4 full-time and then maybe 2
You got some-
part-time.
Yeah, because we have some attendants and part-time attendants. and
That's
then-
in here too, I think. I think that's in here too.
Well, thanks for the information. I'm gonna go ahead and move on, but I appreciate the perspective, Mr. Jones and Ms. Wells, for that. Let's move on to point number 8, where we're going to get an initial discussion and the audit results for 24.
So do we want to call the auditor and have him do a little presentation, I guess, or walk through himself? Or do you want me to just share with you his?
Call the auditor, give her a break.
Yes, let's call the auditor.
Okay.
Oh, do we
Give my
use a
suggestion.
formal phone or something?
I think usually you just put the phone by a microphone.
Basically, okay, I'm gonna tie this into the system just for audio.
You got it.
No, it's gotta load up.
Oh, goodness, okay.
Auditors and accountants, when they are giving a platform, tend to like to talk. So can we keep them on? We don't need the boilerplate, we just need some of the
The
results.
results. Yeah. That was gonna be my
Recommend-
comment.
Yeah, I mean, it looks
Findings,
short.
recommendations,
Okay.
okay?
I mean, once we get him on there, you can direct him to do whatever you need.
I know when they make their presentation to the board, we sit politely and listen to all the boilerplate, and then we get down to the nuts and bolts. And that's what we really want today, the nuts and bolts.
So, we'll probably start with the findings and then go over the management letter. This is the management letter that he gave out to the board.
It's just one page?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you get yours back?
Thank you.
Already got it.
Oh, good.
Well, the other thing he'll cover is the independent auditor's report,
He will, yeah.
this thing, page one.
And that was some of the boilerplate stuff that he talked about the night of the meeting, so.
Right.
He probably wouldn't say much about that if you directed him to do something short and sweet. He'd probably just, unless he says that this is, like if you turn back one page, it says it's unmodified opinion, which is a good thing. He may mention that.
Got his number stuff.
Oh, yeah. 434 282 3654. You want me to tell him that? You know how
I just
they-
killed
Do
it.
you know how to replay? Hold on. 434.
Let's see if it'll. Oh, gee
I'll
whiz.
do it.
No, I was going to try to pull it up
Oh, there
now.
it is.
Yeah. Just hit. You killed
Hang
it.
up on him. Sorry. 434 282 3654. Hey, Aaron, this is Stephanie Wells. How are you? Good. Are you ready? Can I put you on speaker for the committee? Okay, hold 1 second. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Aaron. This is Renee Roundtree. I'm the vice chair of the Isle of Wight County Audit Committee. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great. Did we lose Mr. Stanton?
Briefly.
Okay. Should we wait? I know, sorry, we were getting you on the phone. We lost one. Just kind of the instruction I wanted to give you is that, we have, or I have the independent auditor's report in front of me, and I know that we have the management letter, a copy of that as well, the one page. But this evening, we wanted to keep this report brief, not some of the boilerplate kind of statements, et cetera. We really just want to get to the meat of how we can help and, what kinds of things were there, things you saw in your estimation.
Got it. So, the big picture things for the audit are, well, number one, this was the smoothest audit process we've had since we started doing the audit, which I don't know if we did FY22 was the first year, or 21. But this was by far the smoothest. And in the past, at least past couple of years, the school board situation was just a gigantic mess. And so it was very helpful that they had some better people in place to have things ready for us to do their portion of the audit this year.
Thank you for that. Ms. DeVary is
Can't say that
actually...
enough. That was tremendous. But the county was also, this is probably the most on the ball that the folks at the county the finance department had been all year, or excuse me, since we've started doing the audit. And so, now of course, nothing ever goes, seems like there's always something that will come up every year in an audit that you don't expect, or some sort of, I don't know if inconvenience is the word, but, the treasurer's office, treasurer was new there, and some of the things that the treasurer's office had always done, those things hadn't been done at final field work, so the finance department kind of had to pick up the slack, so to speak, on some things that they would typically do. The one thing is when it comes to property tax amounts, we have, the county has to identify what typically are the revenue accruals for property taxes, and specifically it's the 45-day collections, amounts that get collected as of, from July 1st, 2024 through August 15th, 2024. Those amounts have to be accrued back, essentially. And that piece had always been done by the treasurer's office, and, I just don't think maybe the folks in place there, the treasurer and the staff there, really knew how to do that. And so, and also they hadn't really reached out to me to ask for any guidance either. And so, I know Stephanie and the finance department had to pick that up this year and do that. And I will say, in a lot of cases, most of the counties that I go to and audit, that is something that is typically done at the finance department, but historically it always had been done at the treasurer's office at Olive White. And so, I think one of my management letter points was to really hash out what their responsibilities are as it relates to audit prep and things like that, and really have a policy manual, a fiscal policy manual that dictates who's supposed to do what, in relation to the audit process. Another thing that we, the treasurer's office typically would do is bank reconciliation. And so I don't know that they really had the folks in place, the knowledge base to really be able to do that. And so the finance department had to start performing that function. And at the end of the day, it's better that it gets done than not done at all. So it's I'm glad that the finance department picked it up and did that. But ultimately, my recommendation is that that's something that be done at the treasurer's office. That's something that I audit several counties in the state of Virginia, and I think all the counties that I go to, the treasurer's office handles that. And ultimately, the reason for that is the cash at the treasurer, the cash at the county is ultimately their responsibility. Now, certainly they can, waive that responsibility, I suppose, and have someone else perform the reconciliations. But, from a segregation of duties perspective, it's also just better for the treasurer's office to do that. And so I had a management letter point where I know I made that recommendation that they, take that back. But the thing is, if you're going to take it back, you have to know what you're doing. You don't take the process back if you're going to take the process back and then not do it, or have it sit around for months or not be done correctly, because that's when you can have gigantic messes pop back up. And I've seen that happen at counties where a treasurer's office didn't have someone in place that knew how to reconcile a bank account. And think about bank reconciliations is once you get behind, it can be really hard to catch up. And so it's, while I'm recommending that the treasurer's office take it back, they need to make sure they have someone in place who knows what they're doing, and really more than one. You want someone to be able to prepare the reconciliations and someone to be able to review them. And the person who's reviewing them should know what a reconciliation looks like and what's accurate and how it should be done.
Okay. Well, just so you know, with us this evening, we have Ms. Wells and Ms. DeVary. So
Sure.
we appreciate your compliments of them both. We like them.
And I'm more than welcome to make myself available as much as I can in that regard. When it comes to these things, if they want advice or suggestions on going forward, what they would like to do.
Okay. I think there's 3 things on the management letter, security for public deposits, bank reconciliations, and revenue accruals. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, so I got so I know when I presented the report to the board of supervisors, I was kind of getting my feet held to the fire a little bit on this item for Security for Public Deposits Act, and so this was a new thing in FY24, and a letter was sent out to all the treasurers in the state of Virginia, which at that time it was the former treasurer would have been still in office at that time, so she would have been the one that got that letter. That hey, all treasurers going forward, the county, you should be confirming all of your public deposits via the website for Virginia Treasury Board, and you're supposed to do this quarterly. And the Auditor of Public Accounts added that to their audit specifications that us auditors were supposed to make sure that the county's doing this. And so, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know that they really do specify in that language who is supposed to do it, but I can say that from some additional reading that I did and just trying to make sense of everything that went out, the letter did go to all treasurers, so I do think any account that the treasurer has custody over, they should ultimately be the ones with responsibility to go on and do that. And I do think it's relatively easy ish to do this process. I think you sign up on their website and you get a login and you can load in all your bank names and account numbers, and I think you might even be able to do it all at once. I haven't done it that way. It used to be something that auditors would do. We would go on and we could confirm these balances, but you can only do it one at a time. You go onto the website and you put in the bank name and you put in the account number, and I put in my little magic code that shows I'm not a robot, and I could click confirm, and they would print the confirmation and show what the balance was for any quarter that I wanted. But they've changed their website this past year after putting out that notice. Now, I think we do have an auditor login that we can maybe go on and look at certain things, but ultimately they want the localities to be doing these confirmations, and our job as auditors now is to make sure that they're doing that. And I think when we were there, we had only seen that I think June had only been done for the operating account, but and so we kind of noted that, and that going forward, you need to make sure you're confirming these balances quarterly. And and I was questioned about who should do it. Ultimately, based on the reading that I did, as I sat back down, at first I didn't want to give an answer that was wrong. I was trying to give an answer for what I thought, but sometimes when you give answers for what you think, it can get you in trouble later. So I kind of wanted some time to read about it. And so once I sat down, and I know Stephanie was talking to the board about other things, I did a little more reading on it, and that's why I did see that that letter was sent specifically to treasurers, which is why when I stood back up, I did say that ultimately it should be the treasurer's office that's responsible for doing that. But one thing I think from doing some more thinking on it and reading on it, I think that is true for the majority of bank accounts. However, there are some accounts, the school activity funds, like the schools, they each have a bank account, and in this ACFR, the schools have a fund for school activity funds. It has to be presented as a special revenue fund. So, but ultimately, treasurer's not I don't believe the treasurer is a signee on those accounts. So ultimately, I think the responsibility for those falls on, the schools to be doing that. And we've sent that information out to the school board folks as well, for them to know that, the schools need to be confirming it for the ones that they have.
Mr. Very says she did that.
Okay.
All right, so point number 2 was bank reconciliations. I think we've covered that one because you talked about that earlier. The third point had to do with revenue accruals.
Yeah, and I think that's that. I think I talked about that. That was the thing with the property tax accruals that typically had always been done at the treasurer's office. But I don't know that they had I don't think that the treasurer and the new staff there really had a history of knowing how to do this. I don't think when they came in there, I don't think anyone gave them the instructions and the history of how this all gets done. So I think that's probably why they were hesitant to be able to do it. But basically, I think in that, and I can try to pull up what I exactly say. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's exactly what that is, and I just recommended that the county take steps to just kind of reconfirm which department's going to do that going forward, just so it's in place. There's no questions about it, like who does what. Like if it's something that's in a policy document or something, it's easy for everyone to look at and say, hey, this is my department's job, this is my department's responsibility, whatever process that could be.
Well, Aaron, I really appreciate it. I know it's after 5 on a Monday evening. Anybody else have anything for Aaron?
Aaron, can you hear me, Aaron? This is Stephanie.
Yeah.
Can you also discuss the formal findings too?
Yeah. So we did have a federal finding.
Well, and also, what the changes, corrections, I guess, from prior year, because we had prior year findings that had to be reported on as well.
Okay, so you want me to talk about the prior year findings as well as the current year?
Correct, just to show that some of the prior year things were handled and then.
Yeah. Sure. I can do that. So if you're looking into AGFR, and sometimes that is confusing because these things are not always the easiest to read, but when some people flip to the last page of this report and they see another page of findings, at the top it actually does say prior audit findings. Some people see this and they're like, shoot, we got a whole other page of findings. But this is actually, we're required to do a page where it shows what the prior findings were, and then there's usually a bullet under each one that says if corrective action was taken or if it was repeated again in the current year. And so if you're looking at the last page of the AGFR, and I think it's PDF 305 if you're on a PDF, and I think it's page 281 at the bottom if you're looking at a hard copy. It's the summary schedule of prior audit findings, and there was a 2023-001, which was on the component unit school board's financials, not containing all necessary adjustments to reconcile to the financials, and you'll see the current status. There was corrective action taken there. Just a great job in getting things ready for us for the audit this year. In the previous year, there was just numerous, I think, audit entries that had to be proposed to get to, where we had numbers that were in accordance with, accounting principles to be able to report it. And then 2023-002, prior year finding, was on the child nutrition cluster, and that was where we had a finding related to the free and reduced meal application. And so, and one thing you have to keep in mind, this prior year audit finding, that's talking about FY23. And so due to all the delays and problems that were going on at the school board, I don't know that we actually finished up the FY23 audit until January of 24.
Right.
And that's when we did this testing for these free and reduced meal applications. Was probably either in December of 23 or January of 24. And so we discovered that there were errors in how these things were being approved. Like folks weren't being approved for the right classification, free versus reduced versus denied. And so we had a federal finding related to that. And you'll notice that current status, it doesn't say there was corrective action. We had a repeat finding, which was 2024-001. And I'll talk about that in a moment when I look over the current year findings. But just to kind of preface that, I just told you that, when we did our testing for FY23, we were doing that in either December of 23 or January of 24. Well, the free and reduced meal applications for FY24 were handled in September of 23. And so by the time we were doing our testing for the FY23 meal applications, the FY24 ones had already been done. So it's not too surprising that, the same errors we found for FY24, were present from FY23 as well, because, at that time the staff hadn't been able to be made aware of the problem and start putting in, corrective action. but I'll get to that in a moment. And then finding 2023-003. The school board had not yet prepared the annual school report. That got prepared on time this year. At least I think with the extension. Usually they offer an extension. It's due on the September 15th, and then they'll usually give you till September 30th. But the school board prepared that on time this year, and so there was corrective action noted on that finding. So those were the three from FY23 that we had to put there. But on the previous page before that, if you're looking at a PDF page 304, and at the bottom, hard copy page number 280, that's where we see this finding 2024-001, which is on the child nutrition cluster. And again, this is where we tested applications and found similar problems to what we had in 23. And so I'm hopeful that that won't be something that happens again for FY25. I do still have some worry just because the staff had changed. You know what I mean? Like, so again, if you're thinking about it from a timeline standpoint, for the FY24 meal and reduced applications that were done, those were done in September of 23, and so the school board staff weren't made aware of anything until December of 23, January of 24, and then after that, I believe we were still going through finance staffing changes at the school board. I know the new finance folks came into place, I think when we were doing our preliminary field work in May of 24. I'm hopeful that, when the meal applications went out and were done in September of 24, that, they made these corrections and made these changes. But I also know that, these things don't necessarily happen in the finance department. I keep referencing finance, but, school food has its own department and its own people who do this process. They have a school food director, and they have another person in the office who puts all this information into their software, and it gets reviewed and approved. And it's not something that necessarily does happen in the finance department, but hopefully they're making those folks aware of that they needed to make those changes and corrections. I'm hopeful that did take place, but again, we haven't tested anything yet for FY25.
I know that the school has made a bunch of staffing changes, right? Wasn't it a contract group
Yes.
that was running food services, and now
It's
it's
in-house.
internal,
Back in-house.
in-house? But that was kind of recent.
Yes. Just started, September 1st.
Oh, September 1st.
So the only thing we need to be done is make sure that the people coming in are properly trained, and you're
Yes.
getting the reports.
Yes, sir. They've prepared a written procedure report on what's being done and how it's to be done.
Sounds like we're on the right track, Aaron.
Okay.
I appreciate your, again, commendation of our team and smooth nature of the audit. It's music to our ears
Sure.
as the audit committee.
And thank you for letting me take place in this remotely today. I greatly appreciate it. My house was without power this morning until about almost 2:00, and anyway, we got it back. But also, I think we're supposed to maybe even get some more snow around this area here early this evening. So
Weather events in Hampton Roads,
appreciate you letting me
they're always a good
partake
time.
remotely.
I think one committee member, Mr. Grice, did have one additional question for you.
In the past, my experience has been that recommendations that weren't corrected ended up being findings of the following year. Are we at any risk right now on the 3 points that you've made on security of public deposits, bank reconciliation, and revenue accruals? If unaddressed or corrected properly, could this lead to a finding?
That's a great question, and for some of this, it really does. There's an element of auditor judgment on that type of thing, and pervasivity to the whole thing, and so it just depends on if something rises to something that I think is material in nature. But for certain things, like things that are just state compliance requirements and testing, like for this Security for Public Deposits Act, it's one thing when it's the first year that this is going, they've issued this, and you can kind of have a little bit of leniency on it to make it a management letter comment. But I can tell you, if we're doing the audit in FY25, and you have a basic work paper that says, hey, we're supposed to test this compliance for the state, and did they do this or did they not do this? If the answer is no, it does become something that I probably have to report as a state compliance finding. I'd have a hard time, not being able to. The APA reviewed my work papers, and they'd probably get mad at me if I made it a management letter comment again instead of making it a state compliance finding. The other two items, bank reconciliations and revenue accruals. Well, the revenue accruals is really talking about, which office is doing it, I guess. I would say as long as it gets done between now and next year's audit, when we come to do final field work, if it's been performed, to me, that doesn't become a finding, obviously. It would probably if you guys still haven't done something to document who's supposed to do what, I probably would just keep that as a management letter comment again, like, hey, you still need to, in my opinion, create a document that shows this, but I wouldn't make it a finding, assuming that it's actually been, correctly done and recorded. For bank reconciliations, assuming they're being done on time and being reviewed by, someone in management, that's something, again, I don't think I would make that a finding. It probably would be a management letter comment again, but if it's something where the bank reconciliations are falling way behind or they're not being done accurately, then that does elevate to the level of a finding.
Aaron,
I feel like it kind of, some of this really does just kind of involve a lot of auditor judgment on it.
I think
But what were
that's
you gonna
fair.
say?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ms. Wells had another question. Thank you.
I was just gonna ask you about you said as long as they're done on time. I was mentioning to the board that typically within 30 days of month end, the bank rec should be completed for internal control. What do you look for?
That's normally what I would recommend is a bank reconciliation should be completed before the end of the subsequent month. I think that's a reasonable expectation, but again, this is something to think about when it comes to just having in a policy manual, like some sort of like a fiscal year end, or it's not necessarily even need to be a year end, but some sort of a fiscal policy that just says that. Bank reconciliations need to be performed and reviewed prior to the end of the subsequent month, or whatever you come up with. The county can come up with whatever it wants to do, but that would be, that's my recommendation is 30 day, that 30-day period.
And it usually doesn't rise to the level of materiality until it's pervasive, right?
Right. Yep. I would say, if you can see, if I'm doing the audit and you can see that months went by without the bank reconciliation happening, at that point it may rise to the level of a finding. At that point it's becoming a bit of a, the material weakness becomes present that something could be recorded incorrectly, and also not presented to the board. That bank reconciliation process, I know the board of supervisors probably gets a monthly report every month that shows what the financials are, but if the bank reconciliation is not done, then how good is that information? So, that's what I would say. If once it gets to be, several months, multiple months where it's behind, then at that point it probably does become a finding.
Thank you.
Aaron, again, thank you so much. We'll let you off the hook now. Appreciate it. Stay warm.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a
Thanks.
nice evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, congratulations to staff. Something that we like to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work. I know it's a lot to get ready for an audit, something that comes around every year, but
I know it was hard for you.
still a lot of work.
So in previous years, has the local media picked up on this and reported on these kinds of things in the paper?
It's not real barn burning stuff, you know? It's
No,
And
that
because of the
or-
complication of it and the understanding of what the accounting principles are, et cetera, it's very difficult to communicate it.
I would say last year with the 3 findings for the schools, that did make the
That,
paper.
that made the papers.
That
the
did because we were,
shortfall, the financial shortfall.
and it was
so-
coupled with the shortfall, and that was a story. It was
That made the
newsworthy.
papers.
So I'm just thinking out loud here, is there something to be said here for the county's awareness of, that their finances are being well managed by this team of leadership? I mean,
I think certainly it's something that we could pitch, right? I mean, we don't write the paper, but a
They're
little
very
good
quick
news
to-
story would be good.
Should.
Right.
you know, the populace is very quick to criticize when there are perceived problems.
Have Dick write a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
And it won't get printed. But when you're doing your job,
Right, yeah, I get
okay,
it.
there's very little said.
Yeah. You're only as good as your last watch.
That's right. So
Well,
it's,
that being said, I know, you know, Don and Randy had a productive meeting with the editor of the paper within the last 2 weeks, you know, have an open channel for communication. I mean, certainly to pitch a good news story, I think, isn't out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think we were just, with a couple stories that, you know, we just wanted to make him aware of more information that was available that maybe they weren't aware of. And so we had, what, about 3-hour conversation?
Yeah.
So it was a good, I mean, they got a job to do and we understand that. And, you know, I think we just wanted to make sure that if they have questions about things, they reach out to us to confirm it, you know, rather than, you know, print something that may not have all the information.
Yeah, well, I mean, just my extensive personal views, sometimes I get the sense sometimes we live in a society where we tear down perfectly good institutions on the basis of imperfect information. And I hate to see that happen here. So I'll just throw it out there for what it's worth. If there's a way to get some cachet out of this in the public domain, I just think it advances our cause.
Yep.
I'll work with Mr. Robertson to try and pitch kind of a PIO briefing.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly do that. I think Mr. Bryce is exactly right. Nobody cares if you're doing your job. That's not what sells newspapers. You know, if there's something like an award or something that is in addition to the fact that you did what you were supposed to do, national recognition or statewide recognition or something like that, then that probably rises to the point where they would take more interest. That doesn't mean we can't tell them or inform them, but that's not the kind of stuff that they typically get excited about.
Well, again, maybe I'm naive, but I would think the county would want to know that they're well cared for, their resources are well taken care of. How else would they know that? I mean, all we have right now is social media is people blasting away in all caps about how screwed up everything is when they're, you know, looking at something infinitesimally small.
No, I don't disagree with you. They want to know that, but whether or not that rises to the level of them
Doesn't-
putting ink to paper is a whole different conversation.
Okay, enough said.
Well, I mean, I really like your point, Mike, about that. I think that's one of the charges of the audit committee. You know, we brainstormed a list, all the stuff we wanted to do, you know, when we first started. And I think we said we would wait to refine that until after the next audit report, et cetera. But I think public education is one of our duties, you know, one of the functions.
Yeah, I
So-
agree, right.
Well, the major changes that have been made.
Right, things have improved.
And I thought there was an article not too long ago about the schools, you know, they're coming in on budget and all that kind of stuff.
There was.
But that was pretty much, the whole discussion was to the school situation. It wasn't that we had an exceptionally good audit this year,
And that was because of the stories last year.
last year.
Had you not had that,
They wouldn't have carried it.
I know they covered when you stopped contracting for food service and hired our own internal people. They covered that pretty well, so. Okay, well, I think that was great, and I appreciate the discussion. Several follow-up items here. You know, we'll talk to Chairman McCarty about them, and our next meeting is February 3rd. I wanted to ask if there was any other business or anything else for the good of the order.
I would just like to point out for anyone who's not familiar with or had ever seen one of these documents before, if you go back into the statistical section, that has a lot of really good information over a 10-year period. And specifically, I know people always are interested in the tax collection percentages, and that's on page 257. And it shows, you know, over a 10-year period, you know, and our rate is basically fluctuated between, you know, 98%, 96%, but it's been in a very high range. So, you know, a lot of localities don't have that low, and that's at the end of the original fiscal year. So it's not, you know, you eventually collect virtually 100% of the taxes, but sometimes you have to encourage people to pay them. But this is how much you've collected by June 30, or in his case, by 45 days after June 30. But that, you can see that, and it shows, you know, the total levy, and you know, but there's a lot of information here in the statistical part. It shows, you know, the revenues, the top 10 taxpayers, the bond to debt ratios. So I just want to, I think a lot, that's the section that kind of gets overlooked. That's my favorite section of the audit, that and looking at the fund balance. And so that might be helpful.
I know, Mr. Keaton, you were especially excited in December on the sales tax report.
Yeah, I've been, I think that's just a good gauge of our, you know, economic health in the county, and so I've been sending that out, and, you know, we're up 19%, I believe, this year over last year. And last year we had a smaller increase because we had such, you know, double-digit increases during the COVID time, and plus especially after the Wayfair decision, which changed the way sales tax was collected. But this year we're growing at a pretty high rate compared to, you know, last year. And you know, we're hopeful that with some new businesses coming into the county that will expand even more, and, you know, bring more dollars that are being spent here versus elsewhere.
Well, also, I think reflects that the trend that was started during the period that COVID was here, of buying online, has continued.
Yeah, it was interesting because, you know, we were, like I say, we had this dramatic growth, and then it kind of tailed off to a more normal year of last year, but then this year's picked back up again. So, you know, we're trying to make sense of that. It's kind of hard to, but we're not complaining about it. It's just we'll wait to see how the end of the year goes, because sometimes those things, you might have a really good month one month, the next month is down. It could just be a timing issue, but so far, the first few months of this year have all been up, I believe.
The other thing which you pointed out is the collection rate. A failure to drop or to collect the 98 and 97% rates that we've been collecting, if you apply that to what the amount that's being collected, a 2% or a 3% drop in that collection rate by not collecting it would have a major financial impact on the county.
Right. So this past year, we were at 96.46%. The year before, we were 96.76%. So, you know, 0.3. But then, you know, In 2020, we're at 96.01. So that was kind of our low year out of the 10-year period. We have been as high as 98.05 in 2021. So but again, like I say, it's fluctuated with a fairly narrow range.
Follow-up question to Dick's, Mr. Keaton. When you build your annual budget, do you make a provision for a shortfall in collection?
We budget based on usually what the last couple of years' average has been.
Okay.
So, yeah, we
So
budget.
you want to assume 100%?
Oh, no. We always budget based on what we anticipate the collection rate to be. And one thing that we've had and the board's heard this a lot, we've had a large growth in taxes that are uncollectible because of the new rules in Virginia with the disabled veterans, 100% disabled veterans. Just a couple of years ago, that was about 1.3 million. This year it's going to be $3 million. Wow. So we've had a lot more people moving into the county that fit that criteria, and it's taken property off the tax rolls. So I think we're at over 800 people now that meet that criteria. We're one of the top localities in the state as far as a percentage of our tax base that is impacted by that.
Wow.
I think we're like number 3 or 4 or something like that. Top 5, yeah.
Top 5, yeah.
I think Hampton and maybe a couple. Somebody in the Northern Virginia area is impacted by that. So that lowers our collection percentage by no fault of our own. It's
Yep.
just it takes taxes off the books.
Anything else, Mr. Shinn?
Yeah, I have one last question. On page 15, under public utility funds, you talk about, we have to get more customers into the public water and treatment, so we can get this fund into operating into the green instead of the red. Do you know about what that break point is in terms of customer numbers and when we might hit that based on county growth projection?
I think the county growth would have to be astronomical to ever hit that break point.
Really?
Like double.
I don't
even imagine.
I don't even want to imagine what that would be. Not unless we had some large commercial water or industrial water users.
Okay.
Just regular residential usage, it would probably never hit that break point.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Ball?
It has come down a lot. It was 5.5 million a few years ago, and it's come down. It was down to the 3.5 million range. It bumped back up to 4 million this year because we had some capital projects we need to address. But so it's changed quite a bit, but still not where we'd like to be.
Thank you.
Anything?
Yes, from our previous discussions in February, the draft agenda will include something about staff providing information regarding procurement policy and the capital improvements program. So as a heads up to what we've at least queued up in advance.
Thank you.
Also, in following up in his recommendations as far as having a list of, or a procedure of who does what for the audit.
Yes.
When the treasurer took over and my office started doing some of her duties, we had already created a cash management duties, I created a cash management duties breakout. And when we tried to turn everything back over to her, she didn't want everything back. And so we've adjusted that, and there's an option of adding it to the MOU as far as at least memorializing, I guess, who's going to be doing what. We are still having issues, though, with her doing her part. So what has kind of concerned me is if these are my responsibilities and I'm still relying on her to do her part, when I fail, it's going to look like I fail, but unfortunately, that's not going to be the whole story. So I don't know if the county should still consider taking on her, what she wants us to do, and, we'll leave some of these other things that don't require her office to perform. Like I can do the second part, the revenue accruals, without her office having any input. Bank reconciliations, she's got to post those things, like you mentioned, timely posting of the cash receipts and some of the other things that corrections that have to be done by her office. I don't have access or ability to do things in the receipting system. So, I don't know if that's something for discussing next time, because obviously we're out of time, but.
What I would like to see happen is that under the former treasurer, she was performing X duties. She had staff of Y. Okay? Now those duties aren't being performed, or they're not being agreed to come back to her organization. Where we should not be funding the staffing that's inappropriate for what she's performing. That make sense? And if we have to take those monies and put it in another place to get it accomplished, then that's what should be done. Okay?
And I don't think she would mind, but that still causes a problem with her having the responsibility to do these things that I can't do for her.
And if that, as I understood the auditor here, now he may not be the auditor next year, okay? But this could bubble up to
Oh, yeah.
a finding, and if it bubbles up to a finding, she's failed to perform.
We're already 4 months behind, so unless she really gets on it, we'll have a finding next year, which I talked to her again today, and she said that
That's
she was.
material, and there should be action that's appropriate to address that.
Finish what she said today.
Oh, I asked her about it when I talked to her today, if she was gonna be able to get some of the things done, and she didn't give me a timeline, and I said, well, can you get to it this week? And she didn't promise that, but hopefully,
Okay,
because,
so in the February meeting, can we take a look at the,
and I can pass
Just
these
what-
out for you
yeah.
just to have for information or to review for next time, but yeah, sure.
I think related to this question came up earlier, and I think we consulted our attorney. What is the legal floor or minimum that the treasurer must deliver to the public? And I think, Mr. Jones, you said it was kind of all over the place. There was a
I
lot
haven't
of,
received any bank recs.
There's no specific language in the Virginia code that I can find. as to what her duties are. They're very general.
okay.
Well, then how do you determine failure to comply?
So my discussions with Ms. Wells was to go to the treasurer and ask her, what are your duties? She lists them on her website.
Right.
As to what she's gonna do, which is basically handling the cash at the county.
We haven't, the schools haven't received bank reconciliations either. We handle the school activity funds and the health insurance fund, but the others should be under the treasurer.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that we should be able to nail this down and get a sign off on it. And recommend to the board that they take that appropriate action.
Well, she is willing to sign this, but like I mentioned, the problem is being able to perform my portion of the duties is not, I can't do it. I can't do her bank reconciliations for her because she has things that she has to finish on her part.
But there's a way of measuring, is there not?
I'm not sure I understand. What do you mean?
If you don't have a bank reconciliation for the end of December, and we're in March, the numbers that the board is being told are the financials and our operating position at that particular time are incorrect. At best,
For revenues, that's correct.
At best, they're a good guess.
For revenues, that's correct.
so what do we want to do? Form a committee, maybe? Ask Chairman McCarty and maybe the secretary with Stephanie and
think-
Randy to meet with the treasurer before the next meeting?
I think so. I really recommend
that
that
many
you
people
say.
meet with her.
Huh?
One time.
Say again?
Stephanie is on this board, that if it was three board members, you can't meet with the treasurer unless you call them.
I thought we appointed her so that that wouldn't happen. Members,
We took Randy off, so there'd be but Stephanie's on the board, part of this committee.
she is on it. So it could be Mr. McCarty, though. And stuff.
McCarty and Stephanie, or Mr. McCarty and one other board member, not three.
Stephanie definitely has to be there.
Could it be two board members and the CFO? That has nothing to do with the audit committee. So it'd be
If you hadn't
basically,
said it tonight.
No.
You're on the audit committee though, yeah, he's
You're on
right.
this committee.
gotcha.
All right, so we're gonna request that you guys meet about those items that we've brought up, especially the,
Nail them down. They gotta be nailed down so we can take you're gonna be budgeting for the next year here shortly. And if you don't know what you're budgeting for in that department, and in your department, if you're gonna take on these additional responsibilities, how are you gonna operate?
yep, so we'll request that be done before our next audit committee. We'll see if we can work that out. It's a month. Excuse me. Okay. Well, we're right at 6 o'clock. Anyone else? Anything else to say?
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Grice. I think everyone would agree with that. Don't need that we need to call the roll. Meeting adjourned.